This is LOD Planner. And now it's actually fun to create a project as well. Instead of being presented with so many options straight away, you click the new project button and the tile flips around and we can give it a name. This is going to be our HQ building and we hit save. This is created as a project and we're in the project. I'm going to invite Louis so he can start collaborating with me. Okay, and I can invite Louis. So I've invited Louis. His details come up because he's already part of my workspace already. And I can then work with him and he can work in the same project as I am.
So maybe I should add some teams?
Yeah, so while I talk about this, Louis can add some teams. One of the things we mentioned was being able to use different standards from around the world. Many people use the BIM Forum standard or the AIA standard, but you'll also see different standards from elsewhere. You can see in the background, this is Louis creating teams for us. So let's leave it there. And we could give it a project type. Let's say that this is an office building. And let me put in an address, something like that. And we can put in a description and hit save. So now all of those details are here. Louis creating these teams. Let me add a picture as well. So we've got something. I'm going to use an airport building as our example for our headquarters. That's a bit of a stretch, but be very convenient. Okay, so Louis adding some teams and you can see the logos going in there. Let's move on to the plan. Straight away, you'll see simply two options, whether we're going to use our templates from our projects that we've created before or our company templates, or we can create new stuff from scratch. So I'm going to use our templates. As we saw before, you can see all of these from our standards. And then I'm going to simply look at something. So maybe let's see one of these, okay, identifying BIM goals. I can hover over the eye to see what it is. And as I mentioned, just one click, I could drag that in and it creates us our first section in a new category. I'm going to close that. Maybe Louis, you want to take a look at that and maybe start adding some more?
I think you're
missing
a few items. So.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So this collaborative working is huge. Being able to have people work with you and you can see what's going on at the same time. I'm going to call out a couple of features here, but essentially it's a huge, stop using that word. I'm just so excited about it. I could come in here now, inline editing, so I could change things in here. The history of this section also shows me what people have done. I can see that Louis has made a comment on this, so I can see the comment that Louis has added. We can collaborate like this, and okay, this is great. I'm going to now approve his work. Great, let's move on. Louis proposing other things. We're going through this. Let me collapse everything up. Want to look at just the sections that maybe need our review. We can go and see just those using this. There's a whole bunch more, but Louis tapping his watch saying we haven't got much time, so let's move on to the scope.
Here, I'll
There's
move on.
a thousand features, a thousand features. Let's move on to the scope. So first, again, same thing, very simple user interface and two options presented. We're going to use templates in this again, knowing that we've got templates from around the world, so different classifications, etc. I'm just going to start with some of the elements from the element library, and I'm going to drag in some of these. Maybe let's just, just to give you kind of a flavor of everything, you can see everything here. Louis creating some milestones for us, and maybe let's just drag in a couple. So early on, we're going to do site logistics. So I'm just going to drag on in from the left to the right.
The list of templates that would be added? Okay.
Yep. We can put them in folders, and maybe let's also have some excavation in here, and let's have some, I always use that example, so let's just use HVAC. So we're dragging and dropping this content from our library, and then we can, Louis adding some folders. You can see the site folder. I think he's gonna, let me show how that would work. I'm gonna just drag this and drop it into the folder. And when we drop it, you can see it's now indented. This is all new features. Louis taking the bell away, but being able to put stuff in folders, and also maybe I don't want to call something HVAC distribution systems, so now we can rename it. So,
so
maybe
a lot
this
more
is
flexibility when it comes to this. So editing the names, customizing your own groups. So that's probably something you'd want to show is to combine a set of elements into your own group. So if you're familiar with Uniformat, they structure them by system. So they're kind of fixated around that on systems. But if you wanted to do it by areas, modules, or even materials, you can do that. I've
created some content. We've put it in folders. You can have an industry standard folder structure, such as one of the Uniclass, Uniformat, etc. But just in the interests of simplicity and keeping it quick. Now we would see for each of these milestones what we would like to add. I'll add using the add tool, and then I can increment what the requirements are as far as the geometric requirements, the reliability requirements for each of these, and we can start to show what we want at each stage. Yeah. Because Louis put some of the teams in, we can use the quick assign tool on the right-hand side, and we can simply select, okay, the mechanical engineer is going to be doing these, but maybe early on, the architect is going to be doing this. So we could start to work with this content, assigning it to teams, working very, very quickly. Maybe the site logistics would be a good one. Let's open this up because it's quite a large set of content. Instead of adding everything, we're simply going to say, okay, we would like the building masses. We would probably like to have the cabins. We like you can, so
yeah.
How much time have we got?
You want to show the
not much time. Okay.
Mechanical for information requirements. So if you had information requirements, maybe showing the equipment that would require warranties.
So if this is a great point. This is a handover item, and maybe at handover, the owner would only like these two elements, and they would also like some information related to them. And in order to do that, previously it was pretty intensive clicks, number of clicks to be able to do that. But if we now go to the information requirements, the panel shows us similar concept of having a library of those information requirements, being able to search, for example, the warranty details, and then adding the exact parameters. You don't want every single one, but adding a couple of these parameters, and then being able to select these and assign them to these items. So I can assign to the boilers and to these tanks as being certain things that the owner would like to have. Okay.
We always recommend creating your templates. So always one project should be a template. And if you already have your set of requirements, instead of clicking them one by one, you can go straight to your template and drag or add them from your templates.
Perfect. There's a bunch more we want to say, but we're right down to the wire. So let's talk about the track very quickly. Those cards are created automatically from that set of items that are shown. And then just to kind of show a couple that, let's drag in a couple of these and maybe the excavation so that we've got a few.
So I'll start assigning teams.
So let me show you how one of them goes, and then Louis can do the rest of them. So I'm going to add a date to this, and I'm not going to assign it to anybody. And then actually, let's make sure that it's got a team assigned. It's probably not them, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to go and show the timeline view. So here you can see that task has been added, and I can then start dragging it around. I can start to define dates for it, and I can also drag it to assign it to somebody. Now I'm going to assign this to Louis, obviously. I'm going to assign things to myself. And then these tasks are being shared because Louis is assigning some dates, and I can add these to the board and start to work with them individually. This is just a massive improvement because now you can not only assign it to a person, but you can also assign it a date, and you can also start working with the cards in that simple environment to update progress. So you can imagine how this gets a lot larger, the set of content in the timeline. But when we work, let me go into now filter. I would just filter for my tasks only, and I would see I have one task. I can see that I am 3 days behind. It was a bit of a tough deadline you set me there.
And if you're in a management position, you can set your filters at a date range. So it could be, you know,
and I can
months,
check
weeks.
off what I've done.
Oh, the information requirements are integrated as well.
I can add uploads of different attachments and etc. I can then show that we're ready. Oh, huge! Everyone, this is all good.
No pressure.
And then I'm just going to hit the print button here so that we can see the tasks that we were looking at before as a set of, and this is just filtered the ones and printed the ones that I had, but these are your pull planning cards. And the documents, let's see whether we can create a document. I'm just going to check everything, and then I'm going to call this our contract and hit print. And then if I open the styles, you'll see I just use the defaults, but we could have a different cover page, change the headers and footers, change the way that the plan is defined, using visual feedback, being able to identify what's going into that report. So do we want to include the information requirements, yes or no, for example? So let's just open that in, but now you can see, okay, we've got a contact list, and we've got those plan sections and all the content, and we've also got a document showing those images of what we had selected. I nearly quit the whole thing. So just to very quickly, just to recap, super easy user interface. If we look at the projects and the project that I created, and then be able to go through the plan, seeing all of that content, what's approved, what's not approved, going through the scoping, adding and assigning who's responsible for what, going through the tracking of those tasks, and in both the timeline and also the card view, they're linked together, so a change in one changes the other, and then having all of your documents